Hello everyone, my name is Michal and thank you so much for joining me for my talk/video. I hope you're going to have a good time. I hope that you get to pick up maybe a thing or two, perhaps learn something, and at least I hope that by the end of this video you're not going to think to yourself, well, that was a total waste of time. So I hope we're going to have a good time for the next 20 minutes. So today I want to talk to you about perceptions. So just the way people form impressions of your game and your product. Now, when it comes to people, I do, you do, and I'm pretty sure most of us do, form some sort of perceptions about the people that are around us. Now, for example, if we see someone with a mustard stain on their shirt, we think to ourselves, it's probably a bit of a messy person. Same thing can be said about our video games. So the things that we say, the things that we communicate through the way we talk and through the things that we write, can form perceptions in people's minds about what sort of a game it is. And some of those things can be positive or negative. But anyway, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, this is all great and cool, but who the hell is this guy? And that's a really good question. So, my name is Michal, and I'm an owner of a video games agency called 3233. Now, I've been marketing games for over 8 years, from big AAAs all the way to indies. Now, I started my career in video games all those years ago for a company called Techland, and I was the social media and community manager on Dying Light and Dying Light the following. But after a couple of years, I decided to do something of my own, and that's how 3233 came to life. I had the chance to work on games such as The Medium, The Sinking City, Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1, Steel Division 2, and dozens of others. And every game that I help to promote and help to market, I always end up learning something about it. I always end up picking up a little thing or two along the way. Now today I just want to share with you a couple of things, especially that deal with how people perceive your game, and I hope that will be useful to you and you can put it in your marketing arsenal. But before I go any further, I need to give you a huge disclaimer. So first up, these are just my own thoughts and my opinions. I can actually be wrong. If you think I'm wrong, that's fine. But I hope that these few tips might get your brain cells percolating and you think to yourself, actually, maybe he's got something in there. So, just a little disclaimer. Now, since we got that out of the way, let's go into tip number 1. So, tip number 1, do not ever call your game beautiful. This is something that is a big pet peeve of mine. People should come to that conclusion themselves. They should come to this conclusion by looking at your screenshots, by looking at your trailer. They should be looking at it and going, wow, this is beautiful. But if you tell them, hey, this game is beautiful, they'll think to themselves, nah, actually, I've seen better. So don't tell them directly. Use other words. Use things like Dali-esque inspired graphics, gritty and dark graphics, use other descriptors than beautiful. And just think about it this way. Say you're single and you're looking to find your love, and you come across a profile like this guy here, and he says, I am beautiful. Now, what do you think to yourself? Oh, you're probably thinking to yourself, I've seen better. You're probably thinking to yourself, you're not that beautiful. And you might even think to yourself, well, this guy, he is shallow as hell. Now, if people are thinking the same way about people, then there's a very high chance and there's a very high probability that they probably think about your game too. So, try to use different words. And there's a couple of other words or descriptors that I do not like using. Please, if you can, do not use the word fun. I mean, a game should be fun. That is the essence of a video game. It's like going to a restaurant and saying, hey, we'll serve you a tasty meal. Like, don't go to a restaurant for a shit meal. So it's the same with video games. The other thing that is a bit of a pet peeve of mine is next level. I just kind of think it's a little bit overdone. And phrases like, a game like you've never seen before. 99.9% of the time, they've probably seen a game like this before. So don't oversell it. Use different descriptors. Be, I guess, a little bit more creative with the way you talk. So, tip number 2, people relate to names, not descriptors. Now, the one thing that I've learned over the years as being a human being is that if If you're a stranger and no one knows you, you're easier to ignore. Now, if you're walking down the street and you see some random person, you can always ignore them. You can just walk on past them. But as soon as you know that random person is Jim or Bev, well, you kind of have to at least, say hello to him or wave. And that's because people relate to names. Something that becomes, once you hear a name, it becomes familiar. It feels like you kind of know it even before you met it. So you can apply the same thinking to your games. And when you communicate and when you talk about the game that you're working on, use the names of characters that are inside your game, Here is John, the assassin. It's a lot more familiar than the assassin. And same with the names of locations or the world or places, shops, restaurants. People like this sort of familiarity. Same thing can be applied to guns, cars, tractors, anything that's got a name, use that name. And here's a little example that I want to show you. Take a look at this. So we've got two phrases here. Welcome to Pine Grove versus welcome to our city. Now, which one of these makes you feel more at home? Which one of these makes you feel more familiar with what you're reading and what you're seeing? Personally, could be just me, I kind of relate more to Pine Grove. It's like, oh, okay, that sounds kind of nice and, maybe somewhere out in the woods. It kind of draws images inside your head. But if you go, welcome to our city, it's like, could be anything, So I love names. Now, the thing is, if you're working on a narrative game, using names of people, places, etc. is even more important. Now, there's these really smart people at this organization called Quantic Foundry. And what they did is they've actually found reasons why people play games. So there's all these different types of players out there who play video games for many different reasons. Now, the people that do play narrative-driven games, the reason why they play them is so they can get lost in a different world and they can become someone else. So, if you are working on this narrative-driven game, let those people get lost in your world even before they play it. Through your marketing, let them get into it, let them experience it and get to know it. And by the time your game is out, it'll be a lot easier for them to go, okay, I know what this is about. I know the game. You know what? Let me purchase it and let me finalize the story that I've already built in my head. So that will be really helpful. I highly suggest you do it. It's going to be a good thing. Trust me. Now, point number 3. Make the player the central character of the words that you use in your copy. Now, words have this really cool thing about them. You can actually make people go further or closer to you just by the words that you use. Now, what I really like to do is I like to make the players the central characters in the story that I am creating through the marketing material. And the best way I can do it is by giving you an example. So, let's check one out. So, this is an example for same game, but just different slightly adjusted copies. So you got copy number 1, which is, as a player, you will take on the role of a reincarnated ninja assassin who has the power to control the shadows. And it's pretty good, but let's try the next one. So you are a reincarnated ninja assassin who has the power to control the shadows. Now those two sentences, they both describe the same character, so the character that the player will end up playing. But personally, I feel that number 2 kind of makes me feel a little bit closer to it. I'm the ninja that's going to be doing all this crazy shit. So perhaps writing from the perspective of making the player the central character in the copy that you read, once again, you make them get a little bit closer to your product and make them feel like they are already in the world that you're building. Tip number 4. So it's better when others speak about you as opposed to just you talking about yourself. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Michal, that's amazing, but how do I get others to talk about me? And that's a good question too. And you know what? There's a whole stack of videos, articles, there's a lot of those things that talk about how you can get your game out into the world. But I'm just wanted to raise that point just so I can say one thing. One of my favorite, communication dudes out there is this guy called Marshall McLuhan. Now, he's this Canadian philosopher who used to study media. It was up in the 50s and 60s, and he did some crazy analysis and thinking. I really, really like him, and if I could be half as wise as this man here, then it will be all right. And he said that the medium is the message. And pretty much what that means is it's not so much what you say, but how the message was delivered that's important. So, if you are thinking of only doing Facebook ads, the message that people will see will not be as worthy as if that same message was being said by someone from the press or perhaps someone as an influencer. So if you can, try to get your message out to as many different mediums as you can. Now, some mediums that are happy to promote your message are your first party, so your PlayStation, Xboxes, storefronts like Epic. Then you got people like Razer, SteelSeries. Reach out to them. I'm sure there will be people that will be willing to talk about your game. And of course, press, YouTubers, influencers. You don't need the world's most highest subscribed YouTuber to talk about your game. Even people that got 10, 20, 30,000 subs, they're a fantastic channel. That means there's 10,000 dedicated people who follow them instead of that huge, big subscribing YouTuber. So reach out, talk to these people, and I'm sure there's some of those will actually want to talk about your game. Tip number 5, get good copy full of sound bites. Now, me personally, I love a good soundbite. Soundbite will make your life so much easier when it comes to helping people remember what your game is about and also what others should be saying about your game. Now, just to give you a bit of an idea, I'm going to show you 2 descriptions of the same game. And this is for a real game called Inkulinati. So, let's check the first one out. Inkulinati is a turn-based strategy set on pages of medieval manuscripts in which unique creatures battle for victory. Set in a fun and beautiful world, you will fight by drawing various creatures to become the ultimate champion. Now, this description here, it tells you what the game is. It's pretty much, this is what you get. And it's okay, but I guess if I took the slide away, it will be harder for you to remember what it is that the game does. So what we can do is we can spruce it up a little bit, give it a bit of a glitz and a little bit of glamour, and we can pop in a few sound bites just to give it a bit more pizzazz. So here's the same game, same description, but pizzazzed. Inkulinati is an ink-based strategy straight from medieval manuscripts where a rabbit's bum can be deadlier than a dog's sword. Become a master of the living ink, build your own bestiary, I can never pronounce that word, defeat medieval superstars, and collect perks to unleash hidden powers. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel that number 2 has a little bit more of memorability about it. It kind of helps draw images inside people's heads, what it is that they're going to be doing. Now, we've actually published number 2, and it's out there in the real world. And we've noticed that when influencers, YouTubers, people from the press, when they actually talk about Inkulinati, they are using words like medieval superstars, rabbit's bum. It's great because it helps them communicate to their audiences what the game is about, and then their audiences remember, that's the game with the rabbit's bum. So, please, if you can, do soundbite your copy. It will make a world of difference, and it will make your game just that much more memorable to the audiences that are going to be hearing about it. And finally, tip number 6. No Steam updates means a dead project. Now, me personally, I love Steam. I love Steam. Steam is sick. Steam is the best. And it's not so much because it's a good store. I love Steam because it's slowly becoming like a social network / communications channel in its own right. Now, come, I'll show you something. Here is a typical Steam store page for any game that's out there. And yep, just down below where you've got your screenshots and your trailers, you've got that developer's most favorite button of all time, add to your wish list. Just underneath that, there's this section called recent events and announcements. Now in here, this is where all your latest news that you post appears. Now, for someone that goes into a store and they see regular updates coming in, it sends them a message that, okay, this game is actually being in production. This game is actually being worked on, and these developers are communicating with people. Nice. And for me, I've placed such an importance on this that I actually create a Steam content calendar where I try to post at least once a month, one post just to give off that perception that things are constantly evolving. And some of the topics that you can use is, new screenshots, what you've been up to, a little production update from your game, or even like a little descriptor on the gameplay mechanics that you have. And of course, any trailers or any big major beats or any events that you go to, pop it on there as well. Now, for all you early access developers out there, this is super important, because the reason being, if you're in early access, your customers are a little bit different. They're kind of giving you money for a playable pre-order, I guess. So they're giving you money and they expect constant updates to be coming in. And I know the pain. It's really hard to make constant updates for in-game content. It takes time, it takes money, it takes people. So what you can do in the meantime is actually give them written updates, written content to let them know what's happening. And trust me, if you're doing an early access game and you're already in early access, there's nothing worse than a game that had last communication 3 months ago. That's a no-no. So keep to a regular schedule. Trust me, it will help you out with creating that positive perception. It will reflect in your reviews too. Trust me. And pretty much it's just a good thing. It's an overall great thing. You will not go wrong there. Now, thank you so much for listening to my talk. I hope that you really liked this. I hope that you picked up a thing or two. And I hope that you're not thinking to yourself, damn it, I knew this was going to be a waste of time. If you have any more questions, I'm in the chat right now. So please ask me away. I'm not too sure where, but probably somewhere on the screen. And if you don't want to ask in the chat, you can also ask me outside of chat using email or Twitter. Now, it will make me a crappy marketing person if I didn't promote my YouTube channel. And so I do have a YouTube channel just like everyone else now. In my videos, I talk about marketing and other bits and pieces that I pick up when it comes to video game content marketing. So if you enjoy this sort of stuff, perhaps sign up and might pick up another thing or two as well. So thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much for joining this chat. Hope to speak to you soon, and thank you heaps. Bye-bye.